Good evening, ALTTPR League 2, and welcome to another race as part of the Spoiler Key Sanity Week. Tonight, we are featuring Kaesden and DapperWormMan, Team JKLOL versus Amish Paradise. I am Radical Sniper 99, and tonight in the booth, I'm joined by, hey, it's a reunion of Amish Paradise, practically. I'm joined by Jossum Sauce. How's it going?
Hey, as I walk through the valley where I harvest my grain, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
So yeah,
I'm excited. This is fun. For those of you who probably are aware, so last year, you and I and Zero Nix were Amish Paradise, and this year everybody's kind of doing their own thing. I'm taking a break from the league from some life stuff, but I'm here to do some cool stuff with you guys today.
Yeah, so this is gonna be great, and we are off. So we got a Link's House start from Kaesden and Dapper, finding that small key to Palace of Darkness. So yes, this is Spoiler Key Sanity. What happened is that right as the race started, right at the word go, our runners start moving, but in the race room, a spoiler log was dropped, and Kaesden and DapperWormMan have a pilot who is going to be going through that spoiler log. In this case, for JKLOL, that is Leoria, and for Dapper, that is Danny Music. So the two of them have a spoiler log. They're going to start working through it and try to give that best route through this seed.
We see some bombs in the tree pole. That's also on the spoiler log. So they knew they were going to get some bombs there on their way to getting a bottle with a fairy in it off of Uncle.
Yeah, so it looks like we went with the same kind of starting route here. In this case, though, Kaesden did not get word on what was on the chest there, the secret treasure, but did go for another guard kill. It looks like he's going to go for at least one more tier 1 here.
Yeah, so what happens if you've never done a spoiler log with the pilot is you basically get bombarded with the entire spoiler log of everything that's in the game, and you have to hurry as the pilot to figure out a route early on for your runner to go. So a lot of times you just kind of let your runner go somewhere to be doing something while you're able to prepare the route. So they're sending their runners into the escape for something to mill around about. So we'll see that in a minute here.
And a glove is definitely something. So nice little find early there. And Kaesden's right behind, did get that extra bomb. So 8 bombs for Kaesden. Nice little bonus, not going to really make a difference. Dapper, though, heading through Sanctuary, and it looks like we're going to get back of escape early as well here.
Yeah, so I take it there wasn't anything worth going down to Zelda's cell for. They did have the bombs to get there if they wanted to, so that probably means there's nothing in the rest of escape. But definitely something back here we're going to see.
Yeah, and usually, one of the first things you start looking for is, hey, where are my boots? Where's my flute? Any of those kinds of things. Or a sword. That is always great.
Yeah, the fun part about this is, from a viewer's perspective, is, they know where they're going. They've got a plan. We have no idea. So we get to kind of guess where we think they're going to go and why.
Yeah, I love that guessing part. While we have access to also look at the spoiler log, I personally am the side of I don't want to know.
Same.
I like
hopefully
being
the chat will
surprised.
Me too, and I hope the chat will join us in that. And at least if you've already seen the spoiler log from race time, just keep that to yourself. That'd make it more fun.
Yeah, there's definitely that element of, you start going and you're like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? The one thing we do actually provide you here is what the medallions are. So in this case, we see that Ether for Meyer, TR is Bombos, and you can also see our pendants. We have Ice Palace, Swamp Palace, and Green Pendant Desert, and our red crystals are Pod and Meyer. So now Kaesden did skip that Ice Rod for now, but does get Titan's Mitts. Wow.
And Dapper able to get that second tier 1 pull on the tree, just like Kaesden did while he was over in the castle area.
And 300 rupees there in the back of the Blind's hut. Nice little find. Really like getting some money. Yeah, I mean, the Ice Rod's going to be easy enough to get a little later. The heart container's nice. This is definitely a battle of low percent throughout. So we'll see how they kind of approach this. but we are getting a couple of heart containers that are convenient. Don't expect to see a second row of hearts too frequently. We get our first big key this time for Desert Palace. That is not necessarily a required one, but I'm curious if that might be needed at some point.
Yeah, this is that fun part, again, where we don't know what's going to happen and why. But a lot of times, we'll send the runners to just do some things while we get a chance to look at the spoiler a little deeper.
Yeah, and that's one of those important pieces of this mode is you'll definitely have a time where a pilot might say, okay, I see this big key, I see this small key, and just pick it up, full clear cack well. And then later on, they'll say, oh, you didn't need that. Oops, we picked up something we didn't need. And that's confusing to the commentary, but to the runner, it really makes sense of just like, I don't know what I can or cannot really skip or do at this point.
But since we've seen Dapper do it too, maybe that green pendant's worth something here. Because Desert Palace does give us the green pendant from a Lammo kill.
Yeah, and we do get our Moon Pearl off of Sick Kid, so that bottle off of Uncle is really nice. And oh my gosh, we got boots in the back of the tavern.
And actually, that makes sense why they didn't go for the Ice Rod, because they're going to go in the Dark World probably here and maybe pick that up really quick.
Well, and realistically, I'm it's not something you're going to focus on early. There's not much of a major benefit at this point in time, so we'll see what happens.
So just to give you a perspective of a pilot, when you see that, oh, there's a big key in the well or something, and you're trying to scramble backwards in the spoiler to say, okay, well, does Lammo have something? Does the big key in Desert Palace have something? Does Green Pendant have something? The big chest, and you're kind of scrambling around to see while your runner is there, because you don't want to lose any time skipping something. As we see DapperWormMan getting his Moon Pearl and the mirror for Kaesden. Again, that makes a good sense to not get that Ice Rod until later when they're doing Skull Woods.
Yeah, that'll be really convenient during the Skull Woods trip. I mean, knowing that Turtle Rock, you're going to have Fire Rod, which is required to beat Skull Woods, you can kind of delay a little bit on that one. So as long as, Kaesden and Leoria keep that in mind and get it later, not a big deal. We do get another small key or our first small key to Palace, or second small key to Palace of Darkness. So it's a nice little find, and we are out of Thieves Town.
With Dapper Amish Paradise following the same plan as well. Makes sense. That mirror is going to be really helpful to be able to clear some other things and, lead on in the way. So it's a good pickup as we see Ether. So that must mean one of the medallions is Ether.
Yeah, Meyer is definitely Ether.
Oh, right. We've got that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So our tracker, Irritable Penguin, I believe, does takes that a little moment early to kind of just go through the log and say, okay, what can I fill in for us? And in this case, crystals, pendants, and medallions. Really nice to be able to do that, because we're not getting map checks. And oh my gosh, we already have a hammer as well. Whew. Loaded seed.
So that would have been a good time probably to get the Ice Rod, but we don't know. Maybe they're going to come back. They are going to come back. Skullwood's being a crystal, so probably once they have the Fire Rod, they'll probably grab that then too.
Yeah, that would be my guess at this point. I don't see any grand rush to get to that. So, but realistically, we've seen pretty much the same routing from both of our teams. No real major divergence, although I say that, and Dapper is dropping in to the left side here of Skull Woods as Kaesden gets our first bow.
One thing that's really different about this mode is if you're not used to reading a spoiler, we don't really use the names of these rooms for most modes, knowing which one's the map or the compass. As we see the cape, that might be something important, or just a safety. We're not sure what's going to go on there. But, when you're trying, as the pilot, trying to communicate to the runner, oh, go to the map chest or go to this room. And if your runner doesn't understand what room that is, there could be a miscommunication there.
Yeah, we are getting some divergence now. Kaesden heading up Death Mountain while Dapper is into that 4 portal in the Dark World. Wonder if we're going to get to see Hype Cave or somewhere else nearby. $50 off of the Hype Cave NPC. A flute, and that's it. And there's our Bombos medallion off the old man. So already, those are our 2 medallions for the seed. As Kaesden is climbing very precariously here up Death Mountain. Luckily gets past all those. And Dapper is continuing over to either Stumpy or K45, not sure which, or I'm completely wrong and it's Dig Game, or activating the flute. Don't mind me, I'm just saying anything that's possible, and eventually I'll be right.
Right, we never know with this mode. And that's what the fun is. One thing I'll add too is, it's really important to know your runner's abilities in this format. Jesse, you said, Radical Sniper, you said earlier about that this is a low percent mode, and you got to know, what's the capabilities. So we see the hook shot in Hera, ready for a Hera pot setup, which is a perfect place for that to be. You got to know your runner's abilities. So, if you're going to send them into a 4-heart moth fight, or if you need to collect some mail on the way or go a little bit out of the way for some more hearts, you got to be able to know your runner's abilities for sure.
Yeah. So in this case, Kaesden setting up for the Philly pot. Ooh, getting pushed a little bit too far on that one. But nice on the second go.
Another nice thing that happens with the communication, and Jesse, from you and I last year as a team, when the runner and the pilot communicate, like what's going on. Like I remember, like you would say, hey, let's look for this next, and I would look for the spoiler and help you out that way, and this back and forth. And I imagine both teams are doing that a lot.
Yeah, I can say that Kaesden and Leoria did participate in the recent Spoiler Key Sanity tournament. So they do have quite a bit of chemistry there in terms of practice on that one. I'm not as familiar with Dapper and Danny's experience as a team, so I can't speak there, but I'm sure they've gotten plenty of practice in, and that's definitely one of those things that, as a team, you kind of build that comfort of just knowing how that back and forth works.
We got our first crystal with Moldorm taking a big fall there, with no falls on Moldorm, of course, from Kaesden there, which is always good.
Yeah, and Dapper also working to set up that Hera pot. Unfortunately, taking a death off that mini Moldorm. But hopefully going to give it another... Oh, wait, we do have that fairy. On the sad side, that is the loss of an early fairy. Like, that's a really nice safety to have at this point. But we do get the Hera pot now from Dapper as well. As Kaesden is opening up Turtle Rock right now. So the only real difference we have here, of course, is that Ice Rod on Amish Paradise's side and Flute, while Kaesden does have the first of our medallions as well. Actually, both of our medallions at this point. I don't believe Dapper has collected either of them. But Dapper working through this Moldorm fight, and there we go. Down only 2 hearts. A little close at the end, but does get the job done. In Hookshot Cave, we get our big key to Misery Mire. Our red cane. Hey, this is the Misery Mire care package, apparently. And some bombs.
Yeah, it's one important thing to look out too for your runner is to check in and make sure they have enough arrows and bombs, and just be aware in the spoiler where those are at, especially near the end of the game. When hey, you need some arrows? Yeah, okay, there's one on your way on the left here. That kind of communication. And
I mean, on Wednesday was game 1 of this series, and I can say personally, I finished up my Armos fight and was low on arrows. And that's a Castle Tower small key and our Master Sword. Do you like seeing Castle Tower small keys picked up in this mode?
No. But like I said, sometimes it takes more time to say the words "get only the left chest" or "only the top chest" in there than it is to say "just clear Super Bunny." So
Well,
sometimes you never know.
Well, the thing I have to say on that front though is, in the first 10 minutes, you're a pilot on these. That first 10 minutes is almost the most hectic. At this point, do you have that same kind of issue of trying to figure out that kind of piece?
Yeah, there's a high chance that was an intentional Castle Tower. So we do
There's
get
our blue meal.
And an Ice Palace key, which just makes it a little easier. You don't really have to have it, but it will make Ice Palace a little bit more accessible.
And I think that was Kaesden's 6th piece of heart, or 4th piece of heart, to get his now 6th.
Yeah, this is a mode where just getting a couple incidental pieces of heart can be really, really important, just to gather them over time.
Yeah, slowly but surely, you start finding the resources to get through. Now, Kaesden, it looks like he is heading in to get that flute now. I don't imagine either of our runners are going to go for an early Meyer play. I know we have the big key and the Cane of Samaria, but Meyer in the dark on low percent is probably one of the scariest kind of situations.
And I think one of the reasons maybe why Amish Paradise went in for the cape is now we're seeing a tower access. So, I mean, only going to get those first 2 boxes in here, but maybe they didn't see the Master Sword on their path and they wanted to get away into Aga Tower here.
Well, and realistically, cape's a nice safety. Like, that's a good safety to have in this mode.
Especially when you're in the area. A lot of these things, it's the nice to have stuff. You just don't want to go too far out of the way, but if it's on the route, like they were in the Skullwoods area, just a drop down in a room over, like that might be worth it to get that safety for sure.
Well, and the curious part here also, there's our lamp.
That's worth it.
Tower. Yeah, that's definitely worth it.
And something else in the next one. So they had to be here, it seems like.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting about this, of course, is Kaesden did pick up the blue mail while Dapper did skip it for the moment. But for Kaesden, we're getting the big key to House of Darkness, small key to Meyer. That's always a little nice to have. We get the big key to Turtle Rock, and that's all. So that early flute on Dapper's side is really nice, just for the added mobility, but...
Is that the Fire Rod in Castle Tower? I didn't see it, but they have the Fire Rod now.
Looks like we did have a Fire Rod, so both fire. Oof.
Lamp and Fire Rod in Castle Tower. All right, well, that was worth it, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely worth the time. And we're quickly shaping up to, it's crazy to say, we're a couple of TR smalls. We're missing a GT big. A GT small would be nice. A Thieves Town big. But look at what we're already at.
And flippers aren't even required that we know of.
Here. Yeah.
So we want to know what's going on in Desert Palace, though. There might be some weird key, maybe Ganon's Tower key. Why did they get that Desert Palace big key?
Agreed. And it does look like Kaesden is also making the play over to Castle Tower. So, we're at a crystal apiece so far. Hard to tell how this kind of race always shapes out. Sometimes the early rate portion of these races almost is the make or break, and we're starting to get past that portion, and the routes are very similar. I don't really see an advantage one way or the other yet, but Dapper is into the Meyer shed. We'll find out what we're getting out of this one. Small key to Turtle Rock.
And that's the thing with Key Sanity, right? There's so many items that are important because of the keys that, it looks like we have everything almost ready to go here. And they're like, nope, we need about, 8 to 10 keys possibly.
Yeah. So there is that lamp for Kaesden, as Dapper is doing Agena. And we're not seeing Desert Palace. We thought maybe there's something there. But Dapper heading into Agena first, so we might not see Desert Palace.
They probably would, since they don't have the book yet, they'd do a flute to Mire and then mirror back. And the Eastern Palace, big key there, so that's now clearable.
Yeah, although Dapper does have to still get to the graveyard ledge for his first bow. Unless there is one that's more convenient.
Might be the moth time. Just be able to clear moth here and probably go over to get the bow from there.
Honestly, I would get the bow first. Running out of Skull Woods is a very long time investment. So if this is a moth play, or a graveyard ledge and moth play, I would get the bow first, most likely. Or either way, I think you have to flute out afterwards and
Agreed.
get the other one.
Yeah, it's probably like a mirror outside of Skullwoods, flute to the town, and then go back in. Ooh, a death for DapperWormMan, who does not have a fairy. He went and got a blue bottle, so that's going to put him back just a little bit to have to come back from the light world.
And this is kind of where that safety comes in. Kaesden invested a little bit of extra time to do Paradox Cave for Blue Mail. And, to be able to say, I don't take 2 hearts of damage against those ropes, the Ropas, is really nice. And that's kind of the thing is, sometimes playing a little bit slower in the early game, picking up a safety here or there, can I get you half magic? Can I get you a fairy in a bottle? Where's your extra swords? These little things we kind of just write off really can make a difference in the long run.
Absolutely. And with, it looks like 2 small keys and the big key, I doubt anything of too much value is going to be in pod here. There's not many keys to access anything other than right to Helmasaur. So this might just be a quick clear of pod, maybe a quick clear of Eastern Palace on JKLOL side.
Yeah, it looks like Kaesden is just heading for Helma at this point.
There's not even anything of value in the chest right next to him.
But we are seeing hammer pegs now on Dapper's side. Curious what we have on this one. We had not seen this on... we got a small key. Is this another Turtle Rock key? It is. That's our 3rd Turtle Rock small. And Kaesden having to be pretty efficient, or sparingly uses his arrows. He has very few right now.
So since I've only piloted, and I piloted, quite a bit of seeds, I can only give you the pilot perspective. But right now I can imagine, when you've pretty much got your runner on a track and you've written down kind of the rest of the game for them. Your goal switches from being organizing the chaos to keeping your runner engaged, on the path, ready to go, pumped up, motivated. There's still a lot of value in what your pilot can do, even after they've made the plan.
Yeah, so one of the things that, Leori and I went over this a lot in some of our own races, was just, one of the things we kind of forget about is runners can actually watch this race as it's unfolding. So, Leori can see, okay, Dapper took that death in the Skullwoods overworld, or didn't pick up this item or that item. What does that do for us for timing? So they know and can then say, okay, you have an opportunity to go get an extra blue potion. You can go get silvers. You can go get the tempered sword. Like, these little things that might not be convenient now become an option.
Yeah, and it helps you build the lead. So, when you look back and you see that you may have a small lead on your opponent, and you say, okay, we're going to get these safeties to make sure that we keep our lead. We're not going to die. Or, the silver arrows to be able to fight Vitreous a little bit easier too.
I was going to say, that is the freest silvers you're going to have in this week. Bow on Helmasaur King. But nice Mothula fight there on Dapper's side. So we are just, we're tied up in the crystal department.
So for all the viewers out there, how many of you can do a 5-heart no half magic, one bottle Master Sword Moth. I know that's something I struggle with.
And that's the hard part for this race. You know, I think we talk about this, especially with game 1, we saw this against myself and Zero Nix, and one of the big moments became a cold stare fight. The low percent cold stare fight really had a huge impact on the end of the race. So these are the little things that really do make a difference.
So I think Dapper looks like he's taking the long route back. You know, that's a choice. I don't know how much faster it would be to flute out. It feels like it would be faster to mirror and flute out, but you know, he's on his way to the graveyard either way to get that bow off the ledge.
Yeah, so he'll probably be heading to Pod and Eastern momentarily as well. Kaesden keeping in mind his own NMG strats here, or you know, the common NMG, going, where can I start getting some extra arrows? We were pretty low on them. And he's starting to build up a little bit of a reserve.
Nice thing is having that silver arrows, you know, you only need half as many now, or even less.
There's the bow for Dapper. And yeah, Kaesden getting even more arrows, so gonna have to use 6 of them here, but still gonna be in good shape. And really nice kill there, and we get a small key to Skull Woods. Not totally necessary, but I wonder. I really like getting one Skull Woods small key. I always have talked about this with pilots, is like, can you get me one, especially if you have to do the front of Skull Woods? So whereas Dapper got that cape on right side or on left side of Skull, Kaesden skipped it. And at this point, I wonder, you know, do you go back for it?
Yeah, and also, even if you don't need an item there, just to speed up not having to grab one off of a Gyptos, or, you know, even the pot one if you've got a second one. Like, it adds a little bit of time for you.
Yeah.
We're going to see a Mire play here, probably. Mire maybe into Desert Palace. There's that 4th Turtle Rock that we've seen, so that's all of them.
No, that's the 3rd still.
That's the 3rd total? Okay.
Yeah.
It might be the only one we need, because if nothing's in vanilla big key chest, that's all we need is 3. And they steal the Poke Key. So many items. It's hard to track. So we'll take a second real quick to thank our tracker, Irritable Penguin. It's too hard for me to track this, so great job. You're doing a great work keeping track of all the things, all the chaos that's happening here, so that we don't have to.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to do that part. I've tried it.
And yes, for chat, Bombos was on Old Man, which makes sense. You know, JKLOL was up there, grabbed it while they were there. Amish Paradise, no problem getting that on their way to Turtle Rock, because it's the Turtle Rock medallion. So it's the same kind of idea with JKLOL. Is going to have to go get their Ice Rod when they do Skullwoods. You know, everything's kind of on the way, well planned out by both teams.
Yeah, and what we saw with JKLOL is they went in, you know, they decided to not go immediately for Flute, knowing they had to do the mountain climb anyway. Through the for the Old Man, you know, just said, you know what, let's not worry about Flute, let's just get the Old Man rescue. It's not really going to save a ton of time. Maybe it saves a little bit, but you know, for them, it's let's just go with this play. So
it looks like the cutscene chest, aka the big key chest, in Mire has something here, or you wouldn't spend the time devoting it to this. So let's see, maybe it's going to be a key of some sort, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we're still missing GT big, we're missing Thieves big, so there's definitely a few that we could appreciate. This could be a sword. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I really didn't.
You know, another thing too is we shouldn't hold out that it's never the flippers. Key sanity modes love to have us dip every dungeon in the game anyway, so even though it doesn't feel like we need Ice Palace or Swamp Palace, those flippers could be hiding. Even though if something's in Ice Palace, they could fake flipper in there. So if we see those flippers, maybe Swamp Palace is something, but it's just a pendant for us for now.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see if we get the cutscene play from Dapper. is this Leo saying, I think we have a little bit of time over Dapper right now and going, let's get that sword while we have the opportunity? Or is this definitely going to be the play either way? I'm not entirely sure yet.
Yeah, it all comes down to where that other sword is. It could be in GT and inaccessible, and that might be the only way to get tempered. You never know.
Yeah.
Or maybe we will. We will for sure. We can just look at the spoiler when the race is done. But for now, we don't.
Yeah, and at this point, I expect both of our pilots are kind of in that position where they're just like, okay, where are we? Where are they? And just starting to think, what kind of timing do we have?
Silver arrows on Vitreous is just the dream.
Yeah, just makes that fight so smooth. And down goes Vitreous. And oh my gosh, the safeties. That's 2 fairies in a bottle that we've received so far.
And our tracker, Irritable Penguin, point out that is the second red crystal pod and Mystery Mire. So we might even see a Pyramid Fairy play. But what I'm hoping to see is I want to see what the heck is going on with Desert Palace. So looks like we're going to get that right now. As JKLOL, nope, just kidding. We're floating away.
And this might have just been what we said it was, I see the big key to desert, go get it. Because I don't know. Honestly, like as a pilot, you get into that situation, you're just like, I can't read it. I can't read. I'm trying to figure out where the boots or the flute is and all these other little pieces. I don't know where the big one is, where that extra piece is of where's, do you need Desert Palace? And at this point, I think both of our runners are saying, or both the pilots are like, you don't, we're fine. But, you just had to get that key at the moment. So Kaesden going for that hammer pegs. We did get that small key here from Dapper's side already. So there is some cleanup going on. That third turtle rock, though, is nice to get. Definitely required. There's definitely some other pieces of this mode. We've seen it a few times this week where, you can go get that 4th key, and the 4th key is actually more convenient or quicker than stealing the Pokey key.
And one thing to point out too is even though we don't have flippers, we haven't seen a small key for Swamp Palace either. So that is starting to push out the chances that Swamp Palace still matters here, but we still never know. We also haven't seen the big key to Thieves Town. That's mandatory. Or a small key, just in case that the big chest still has something. So there's still a lot of stuff out there as Kaesden is going to clean up those 2 items there.
Yeah, so we're going to get that ice rod as well as that heart container. And as you said, it was just waiting until we were doing Skull Woods.
Yeah, it's really well routed. That's really a really great early route, especially. That was really early in the game to plan that out that way.
And we are seeing this from Dapper now it looks like Dapper's heading directly for Vitreous. Maybe not. I spoke too soon. Dapper heading back looked like, okay, Dapper is going to go for that.
He didn't have a key. Wherever the small key that Kaesden got, they didn't get that. So they had to get a key on the right side to be able to come in here.
Yeah, so that's really paying off some dividends. These are little things. You go into Mire knowing I don't need to find a single key to clear this dungeon, but deep down it helps. These are little pieces. Are we going to get a GT small? And if you get a GT small, or if you don't get a GT small, you remember to get the one under the pot. These are little things that can make a big difference in this mode.
And a lot of times it's just a matter of just getting stuff and then seeing if you need it later. If anything's on the way, just grab it.
So, but we are starting to see a little bit of a lead form here. It was kind of hard to tell in the beginning just because of the little divergences, but now I think we can definitively say JKLOL does have a little bit of a lead.
You would say that. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
yeah, I agree.
I might be slightly biased, but at this point, Everything that I
agree.
see on JKLOL's side, or everything I see on Amish Paradise's side, I already see as well for JKLOL. So
And typically with this kind of format, like it's playing out exactly like we would expect for a lot of these races, especially when the runners are fairly same level of experience. Deaths matter, right? And the tiniest mistake or little oopsie can be run defining with this mode. So we'll have to see if those deaths from Dapper's side play a huge difference here. And so far, I think they are.
yeah, and we have Kaesden now heading up Death Mountain. And at this point, I think that means we're going to have to climb the mountain a third time eventually, because I'm assuming our Thieves Town Big Key is going to be somewhere in Turtle Rock. And yeah, we're seeing it in chat as well. One death here or there can be just that huge. And at this point, one of the big advantages I'd say for Kaesden is the fact he still has both fairies.
Yeah, and the blue mail that Dapper still hasn't gotten, which I imagine he might get on the way to Rock, but I don't believe there's anything else worth getting in that area. So probably not.
Yeah, unlikely at this point. And at this, really, what the difference is roughly the mountain climb and getting into Turtle Rock. Dapper is about to flute up to the mountain, as Kaesden has already opened up Turtle Rock. So, that's one of the little advantages you don't think about is Kaesden getting the medallion first trip means he's climbing this way. He's already just heading straight in. Dapper, on the other hand, is going to have to go get that medallion.
Yeah, and I imagine, obviously the runners are doing the bulk of the work with the execution aspect, but you got to hand it to Leolia as the pilot. A lot of that is on her routing that she's laid out for Kaesden, to be able to show them that route, to be able to get those little incremental growths there.
Yeah, and that's, I mentioned it earlier, is these two were in that pilot spoiler tourney. And you can't underestimate how much time and effort it goes to learn to read a log efficiently. And there's a free red mail, so wow.
I wonder if the reason Dapper didn't get the blue mail is because they knew they were going to get a red one anyway.
Yeah.
What if that had an impact? And to the viewers, if you've never seen a spoiler log, when this race is over, you got to check out this one at least. But you got to look at it and just see how different it is from an experience, and just try to make a route yourself. Just looking at a giant text file with more than 200 lines, in addition to the tree poles, what's on the bush crab, what all the crystals are. There's so much information there that you have to take in, and then make a route on the fly. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and this is different from there's two forms of spoiler. For those unaware of this kind of format. We're doing spoiler key sanity, our pilot spoiler. And in this, they get the log right at the start of the race. There is another type of spoiler race. The regular spoiler tourney actually gives a runner no pilot, but will give you about 15 minutes to build a route with the log and then start racing. So it's a very different format. This one is just very high octane and just go.
So both runners are in TR. So while this is happening, definitely give our runners a follow for all the work they've been doing.
And yeah, as people are pointing out, this is definitely a popular mode. We did have the first ever pilot spoiler tourney right before League. But then we've also seen, this is definitely a format that gets a lot of pickup races. So if you are in the randomizer discords, you will very commonly see people, say, hey, I want to do a pilot, or not a pilot race, but a spoiler race.
And there's our big key to Thieves Town that you predicted as well. It made sense out here. We're still looking for the Ganon's Tower big key, which is obviously mandatory, but it'll be interesting to see if that's in Thieves Town potentially, or in Ganon's Tower like a normal seed.
Well, the curious part here is I haven't seen a single GT small either. for either runner. And if it is GT big in GT, I'm wondering, what kind of key situation we need for that.
And I think that's one of the hardest parts of this format, because you don't really think about how many keys you need for GT very often. Almost in any format. You just kind of you see how many you've gotten so far, and you make your judgment to be able to kind of forecast what you need and try to figure out in your head, like, okay, how many keys? I remember one time that happened to me. I had to look at a map of GT again and remember, like, which doors are locked.
Little hairy there on phase 2 of Trinex for Kaesden, but gets the job done. And really, that's the only difference here right now, is just this little bit of time.
But it's a GT. Oh no, Skullwood small key.
Of course, it's a Skullwood small key.
All right, so I assume that Kaesden will be headed to Thieves Town now, and to clear that out. I mean, we don't have a small key, so we won't get to find out what's in the big chest. I'd imagine that's not important unless unless it's in there. We'll never know.
And here's the curious question. Does Dapper have enough magic? No, not enough magic, so gonna have to burn that blue potion.
Yeah, like you said, it's the little things that really have a huge impact, especially in this mode. Like that's that lack of the safety. He does have that new bottle, the fairy bottle that he got earlier, so that'll help a little bit.
But Kaesden now heading into Thieves Town for crystal number 7. And yes, I am not misspeaking. That is going to be our 7th crystal at under 45 minutes at this rate.
So theoretically, all that's left is the big key to Ganon's Tower. Unless, like you said, we need some small keys. But I have a feeling like maybe it's on blind, and maybe we're going to find it here somewhere in Thieves Town.
Yeah, and one of the things we have this happen of muscle memory is the hardest thing to overcome in this mode at times. It's just like you go into a dungeon and you're like, okay, I've got to go get blind. Well, what do you do when you get blind? You always get blind chest. And it's just like, I don't need it. Possibly, I don't know. But you have that feeling of just like, I always get this, I always get that.
Well, that's like watching Kaesden walk by the arena chest and pot. It's like, how can you not pick that up, even if you know it's nothing? It just takes a lot of discipline in this mode to save those few seconds.
And really, Trinex giving both of our runners the business today. Neither runner dying, just not, as smooth as I think both of them feel about that fight. And yeah, Dapper down to 160 rupees, so enough for a blue potion still. Kaesden's got plenty of money and just no reason to spend it at this point.
We could always have the Ganon's Tower big key be on the Pyramid Fairy. That's still an option.
Yeah, I know we said that. You said that earlier about having Pyramid Fairy access so early, and I feel like if it was required, we would have seen it by now, though.
Yeah, I don't know when the best time would have been. There's not really a good time to have lined it up. And since if it would be the Ganon's Tower big key, it kind of doesn't matter when you do it, right? Because it's the last thing you're going to do before you go into Ganon's Tower.
Exactly.
So it still could be that.
And Kaesden almost picked up the blind cell. But yeah, this is part of our Turtle Rock division. Currently, JKLOL roughly tied for first place with the Rando Babies. Amish Paradise right behind. So, this is really important for both teams. You want to try to work towards those top 2 spots to make playoffs. So every game matters, especially one this high up in the division. And it's not on blind, but that is crystal number 7.
So you can see exactly the lead on the screen, right? It's exactly this much between Dapper getting to blind and Kaesden finishing blind. So that's where the little execution gap is going to be to try for Amish Paradise to make up for it as they look for this big key for Ganon's Tower. And when I say look, they already know where it is, but suspense. It's probably in Ganon's tower. Could be Spike Cave.
I don't think you're going to Spike Cave if you're. Yep, not if you're doing this.
It's probably Ganon's tower. Watch, it's probably on like the torch or something right in the front.
Yeah, I was going to say Dark Magician.
I mean, there's no keys, so it has to be pretty early. Unless, I mean, all those keys could be in line in the beginning too. I mean, you have the free key. The key could be on the torch too. Hope Room. You could get all those keys since we haven't seen any yet. But I'd really like to know what's in Ice Palace or Swamp Palace since we didn't see any of those 2 dungeons.
Yeah. We didn't see any pendant dungeons. This has been a kind seed.
Right, all 3, yeah. Yeah, and with only 7 hearts, 7 and 6 hearts too. I mean, they could be just packed full of heart containers. But this is a pretty jet seed. Obviously it's jet because you see the spoiler. But in terms of not having to go too far out of the way for anything, having really nice flowing routes, that's there's a lot of, everything else that's left. A lot of checks that weren't done.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting. We talk. You said a jet seed, but even in spoiler, like anything sub-hour is really quick. Because we've seen, even with the log this week, where 2 technically very strong runners could still take an hour 10, an hour 15, just because of, how rando is going to rando. But here we go. Kaesden going up those stairs and into GT at 1:45.56. As Dapper finishes up crystal number 7, and Kaesden is going to the left. Kaesden does already have a GT key, so he did find one earlier in this seed. I missed where he got that one.
Oh, did you guess it? You did. Man, you're 2 for 2 on predictions today.
I mean, if you go in there with no keys, I don't think you're aiming anywhere else but knowing it's a DM.
Yeah, it could have been in that, was that the map room? Whatever the firebar room. Again, I don't, it's hard to know the real names from what we call it, the 2 firebars.
Yeah, that's the map chest. I will say the bad thing about map chest, of course, is the spending of an extra key. But Kaesden working now through the climb. Kaesden's safeties at this point. He's got 2 fairies. Dapper, on the other hand, has 1 fairy. So that is the safety difference. Neither of our runners has a potion. If I was in Kaesden's shoes right now, I think there's a chance we see him hit the safety room. He knows he's got a little bit of time, and a death is more dangerous than anything else.
Yeah, and we'll add that there is no powder and no mushroom, so there's no fake powdering a fairy later at the top. So there's not going to be much of a health refill after the gauntlet.
And never mind, Kaesden is not even going for the refill room.
And that makes sense. I mean, with 2 fairies, he might burn a fairy on the climb and then have one just in case he hugs Ganon. But, my more concern for both these runners would be the magic use. But with the lamp and silvers, these are experienced runners. Like, I can't imagine they'll have too much trouble, but it's just in case,
Exactly. And yeah, I would say this is aggressive, but realistically for Kaesden, he's got 2 fairies. He's got red mail. I think he feels comfortable with this. A fairy is going to fully heal him.
And I think, I don't think it's going through Kaesden's head because as an experienced runner, I think he's got this. Both these have this climb knit down, but just the idea that he's ahead enough that if he were to stop, he doesn't have the safety of a Ganon fall if it happens. But right now, I think if he keeps going, he has about a Ganon's fall difference.
And I think the lead is about 2 minutes, by the way. I know we didn't say the time. It was like a 45-50 or something. And Dapper was about 2 minutes later into GT. So Kaesden's got a little bit of room. But yeah, that's not a full Ganon fight, usually.
Yeah, and being, red mail, though, helps. You can hug him once. You don't want to hug him at all, but just in case. And sometimes it's better when you have a pretty good lead, to just don't get too comfortable with it, just in case.
And Leo informing us that the GT Small was in Hype Cave. And I'm guessing that, did Dapper not pick that one up?
No, he just got the flute and then left, which is fair. I don't.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair play. It just means at the top of GT, he's gonna have to kill the mini helmet.
Yeah, right there. I mean, you saw how fast Kaesden got through that door, no problem. That's going to be a few seconds. So Kaesden with full magic, 4 hearts but 2 fairies, red mail, with silver arrows. Going to take on Moldorm 2 here on his way. So, the bulk of the game right here, but, it's a pretty good lead.
Meanwhile, Dapper working through the gauntlet at this point.
Dapper's going to use that second fairy here in the gauntlet. So again, that's going to add a little stress probably to his play, a little bit of, hopefully not some tilt, but it happens to all of us that he's virtually naked against Ganon here with what he's got.
Yeah, and that's the rough part here is, it's great that fairy is a full revive at this point. As Kaesden is into Aga 2. I believe that was a double for the first
That was
phase.
nice, especially on a diagonal like that. It was a good fight.
Yeah, that was a hard angle to hit for sure. Only gets a single on that next one, but set up nicely here for another double. Really was going for that triple to end the fight. And there we go, 4 cycle Aga 2 for Kaesden. And we just got a fight against a big pig.
Yeah, with 2 safeties. They didn't get the cape, but with hookshot strats, I'm sure no problem there. And again, 2 fairies, so you can make a lot of mistakes and still be okay here.
Well, and the big thing that you kind of forget sometimes about this is, what our runners have done. I don't know Dapper's running history on this one, but I know Kaesden has done a lot of practice on NMG of the vanilla game, and besides silver arrows, this is a very vanilla fight. So he's going for that early 1-in-1.
Yeah, and he's got it. Very good.
Yeah, and this is practically muscle memory at this point. He's used to this kind of formation, and yeah, there's the 1-in-1. Very, very
good.
Nicely done. And yes, as Penguin pointed out, no Smith. It was a little joke after game 1 of this series, talking about, hey, do we want to bring a Smith into the fight? You can do that. And while both the runners seemed kind of keen on the idea of bringing Jeremiah to Ganon, not everybody was, so we decided no Jeremiah required for this fight.
So we can just get it. Last couple arrows here in. There's the 4th one. So we have a GG as long as he crosses the way here. Don't take that for granted. We just make sure everybody's got to get across the bridge safely. That's our goal here.
We've all fallen when the bridge should appear. It's happened to the best of us. But there we go. Kaesden crosses the bridge and seals this game for JKLOL, finishing with a racetime.gg time of 52 minutes and 43 seconds.
GG. And if you go back in time, the amount of time it took Dapper to get back to Skull Woods, that's pretty close to about the lead there. So this was a very close game. Like I said, this format, one death will kill you. And that's pretty much what happened here with great races from everybody.
Yeah, that's definitely what you kind of expect on this mode. It's the little stuff. Even Dapper, using the second fairy, getting a blue potion, it kind of balances with Kaesden getting the red mail. Just these little pieces back and forth can swing this kind of race.
Yeah, and this was because it was a pretty straightforward route from both sides. Routing helped a little bit, but both sides got a couple little advantages on routing. Both pilots did an excellent job with the routing there, but there was no crazy back and forth thing that so it was a very straightforward path. So it all came down to execution.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things. I mean, what really kept this so close was the routing. Dapper getting an early flute was really nice. Can't deny that having that flute available just made movement just that much smoother.
Yeah, I know when we do pilot spoiler, often the first thing you want to find is that flute and boots. Oh, by the way, it's called ocarina in the spoiler log. If you're ever looking for it, everybody, find that ocarina and the boots and kind of see where, the worst thing, you open up a spoiler log and you see that the boots are in Moldorm 2 chest, and you're like, okay, not getting those today. But not here. So you see DapperWormMan entering one of the final phases of Ganon's fight. A little pause there. Just having a little connection issue there on Dapper's side, but it looks like he has finished Ganon off there, and it's going to be crossing the line. Just 1 second here. And it looks like DapperWormMan and Team Amish Paradise finished with a race time GG time of 55 minutes and 14 seconds. GG to everybody.
Yeah, nicely done today. Really quite quick races overall. As we are now joined by the winners of tonight's race, Kaesden and Leoria. GG.
GG, everybody.
GG.
GG.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was a fast seed.
So let's start just Leoria. Talk about your what happens when you open that spoiler log? What are you doing? What's going on there?
I'm scrambling for like a good 30 seconds trying to make sure that I get all the map information, and I'm not really scrambling. I'm kind of memeing a little bit. No, I'm grabbing the map info that we need. I'm grabbing the medallion info we need. And the first thing I always do is I'm checking what Uncle is and what's an escape. So from there, based on if there's anything, I'm looking, okay, Kaesden tells me tier 1 is bombs. So after I see what Uncle and is in the front of escape, I look at Saha's closet, is there something we can go grab over there? It's a lot of just really quick things at first. And then once I have what he needs to get in Kakariko, that's when I'm kind of, searching through and finding progressive items and keys.
And Kaesden, what's your reaction to the seed? I know it was pretty quick there, but what's going on with you when you're running?
It helped me relax a little bit just knowing I had 2 fairies in the tank just in case, but it also felt good not knowing I didn't have to use them, getting armors, and other than that, it's just go fast. I know Dapper is really fast, and I didn't have any time to waste, so.
Yeah, one of the things we noticed was not going into the safety room. You had a couple hearts left.
Yeah.
Did you think about going in there? Or?
No. Like I said, I had 2 fairies. There's no way I'm going in there. I can do this climb. If I do die, I have a fairy, and I'll still have a fairy for Ganon if I need it. So it's just I know they're on our tail. I just got to go.
Yeah, and that was a textbook Ganon fight. Very impressive. So, and we're joined by the Team Amish Paradise, DapperWormMan and Danny Music. Welcome, GG guys.
GG.
Hello.
GG's.
Gee, that was another close race. Kaesden and DapperWormMan.
Seems
What a
like we
shot.
always do that.
I was going to say, you two definitely have a bit of a history of facing off against each other in these close races.
Yeah, we raced just a few months ago, Challenge Cup, and it was best of 3, and we played 4 games. So,
We almost went 5.
Oh, did we end up playing 5?
No, we almost did.
Oh, we
one
almost,
of the
yeah.
one of the ones that we raised was still really close.
So if you're unaware, for tourney races, it's what, 3 seconds, was it?
I think it was either 2 or 3
That
back
was
then. Yeah.
that was 3, yeah. And it was I remember getting the DM that was you were off by 2.8 seconds, and I was like, oh, I feel so bad for Kaesden. Like, I stole that win, even though, you know, I did win by 2.8 seconds. I was like, I felt bad. I wish we'd tied. And then I read the rest of the DM. It was like, it's 3 seconds. You tied. I was like, yes, more races.
So Danny, we were just talking to Leo about just the pilot experience. So what's going on in your mind when you open that spoiler today?
What are the early things that we need first? Where are boots? Where are flute? What's in Kakariko? Because chances are we're going to be going there relatively early. Making sure that we have the pendant crystal dungeons down. Making sure that we know what keys are or are not relevant. If there is something in a pendant or crystal dungeon. I don't know. I just like look up as much of the progression items as I can, and then try to figure out what items additionally are needed in order to get those progression items. I don't know.
So Rando, got it.
That's
All
correct.
right.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Dapper. So one of the big differences in this race, it was close. Y'all took pretty much the same route. The deviations really just picking on a different dungeon to go to. So the big difference was Dapper taking the fall outside of Skullwood. So what was going on there? What was your reaction, and how did you kind of get yourself psyched up back to continue the race there?
Yeah, that didn't feel good to have a death. You know, it was overworld. We had flute and boots, so it wasn't that bad, but it did feel bad. You know, he was telling me we have to go to Skull Woods next, and then we're going to get our bow right after that. And when I died, I was like, well, can we do that pod in Eastern first? And he said, well, you know, we only have one pod key. I was like, oh, okay. So, and then he said, yeah, that's on the Skullwoods boss, so we should get that. That's the best one to get. It's like, that makes total sense. We're gonna go back. I did a couple overworld things just to like clear my mind a little bit, and just went back in, and thankfully did not die on like 4 heart or 5 heart or something, green mail moth, which felt good.
Yeah, everybody did a great job on their boss fights. I mean, like I said, the only real difference, you know, major execution wise, was those falls. Losing the ferry in Tower of Hera, so you didn't have that backup there, where Kaesden had both of the ferries all the way to the end. So that was kind of the difference there.
Oh yeah, that was so long ago. I forgot about the Tower of Hera death.
I mean, it freed us up for a blue potion that ended up being relevant later, so wasn't really the worst.
Yeah.
That did feel bad to use that blue potion. I was the whole walk towards that dark maze in Turtle Rock. I was like, I don't think I have enough magic, but I might, and had to use that blue to put a Sabaria platform down, which felt really bad.
And I just have to point this out, you know, Chad also noticed this, 59 and 52 CRs for this race. And, you know, I know a lot of us have done plenty of these races over the last week or so. And I gotta say, how many times do you end up below 60? That is a rare find. And I gotta say, I don't think I've seen a 52 in a spoiler keys.
Yeah, no, that's
like
crazy.
That's crazy, guys.
Same.
I have to apologize though for not getting 10 more items.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I have to apologize for getting 3 items, because that would have been the sub 50.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
that is.
man.
The other difference, speaking of items, Amish Paradise, you guys picked up the cape, and JKLOL did not. Was there any, you know, importance with the cape? Was it just a safety? What was going on with that?
I mean, it was the one safety that we were going to get, because we ended up skipping Paradox Cave, which had a couple more things. I figured that there wasn't really a good time to get another Skullwoods key, and we were just, the next thing that we wanted to do was go up the mountain anyway, so we would be able to get the cape that was in the Skullwoods front, and then just take that as a save and quit point, and then we wouldn't have to use the Skullwoods key, and then we could just go to the mountain next.
Yeah, and see, our thought process there was, because we didn't have a key, we were just going to leave it. Like, we ended up pretty much immediately after Kakariko, we went into Dark World, grabbed, I think it was Hammer that was in the map chest of Skullwoods.
Mm-hmm.
Grabbed that and then ran over to Graveyard Ledge for the bow and went straight up the mountain from there.
Yeah, we didn't do Graveyard Ledge until after we beat Skullwoods. And like, maybe that was a part where the routing could have been improved, because we ended up walking back through Skullwoods in order to get to Graveyard Ledge. So if we would have done it the first trip, then that would have saved like the need to walk back, although that wouldn't have been enough time to make a difference in the outcome.
I probably would have walked back and gotten Cape anyway.
Yeah, the thought there was like we were planning to get the cape, but then Leo saw it's like, oh wait, there's a bow on Graveyard Ledge. And I just said, well then we're not getting the cape because I'm not going to save and quit out of Skullwoods.
Yeah.
It's like, well then we're getting the bow. It's like I need that. I want the cape. We go with need over want. So.
Yeah, I think it was something along the lines of like I had seen the first bow was on Graveyard, or like that a bow was on Graveyard Ledge, but I hadn't seen where the other bow was. And then I finally saw that it was on Helm. I was like, yeah, no, you need that. You got to go get that.
Yep.
The one thing that I think we could have potentially done that would have saved a little bit of time was if we had done like our little South Shore shenaniganery first, and so we had to flute to get to the mountain. But I don't think it like hurt too much in the grand scheme of things. Like the only thing we really lost
I think
was
Old Man had
Old
bombos
Man.
anyway, and
Yeah.
like that doesn't save that much time. It saves the first
No.
half of the cave. It's like whatever. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, another thing we were wondering about is both teams got the Desert Palace big key from the back of the well. And there wasn't a lot of things going on in the well, so we're just wondering, was that just a
that was
taking
just
time?
it was
Grab
it
in
was
case.
early enough. We saw the key was
Right.
there. It's like we're not coming back for it. Just get it now if we need it. Great. If not, whatever. We have
Yeah,
bombs.
exactly.
We had
Yeah.
bombs to spare, so it's like just grab it. It's better safe than sorry.
We
Yeah,
were looking up other things. We knew we wanted to go in there anyway for a heart container, and like just grab it.
Yeah, it's the exact same thought
100%.
process on our side.
Well, we appreciate the half an hour of suspense that you gave us because of that key. So excellent, good entertainment value off of one check.
Well, the
Yeah,
boss,
you're probably like, because it has bombos or something, because we probably both grabbed bombos on our...
Lanmolas
Yeah.
did have powder, which wouldn't have been the worst.
Oh baby.
We saw Kaesden come out of Mire and Mirror right there. We're like, ooh, is he gonna go back in? And like, what's in the Ganon Tower big key? Like, there were still a couple things. We're like, could it be flippers? We get Swamp Palace. And we just go on this chase. We're really hoping for something, and then we left, and we're like, okay.
Bye.
That's the fun with Pilot Spoiler. We don't know what you're doing, and it's fun.
I'd like to point out the logic on that scene was really gross too. You got to go all the way into the
The
basement
Laser
of
Bridge.
Thieves Town to get a small key to go to the base to go to Laser Bridge to go back to Thieves Town.
No, other way around. But yeah, like
Something
Laser
like that. It was
Bridge.
like, there's a lot
yeah.
of back and forth. It's like wow.
Laser Bridge so that you could get your final TR small in Blind Cell. Go back to TR. Like, nah, just get the key.
Yeah,
Yep,
good
the
luck.
3 Turtle Rock keys that we got were the only options.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Same for us. So yeah, you're not getting.
I do
anything
want to
else.
ask, fourth sword, where was it?
Hera basement.
Error basement and the big key, was in Ganon's Tower.
Yeah.
Or the
Oh,
small key
It
was in
wasn't
Ganon's
happening.
Tower.
yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Fair enough.
Lil was asking me, it's like, which is faster, Hera basement or cutscene chest? It's like, well, it's probably cutscene chest. It's like, okay, well, good, because the small key's in GT anyway. So,
Yeah. It was
Like
like, I'm just talking while typing. I'm like, oh, okay, well, never mind. Point is moot.
yep.
Awesome. Well, GG to everybody. Any last thoughts before we wrap things up?
Thanks to all the people, as always, who did the thing.
Yeah, thanks for picking up a pretty last-minute restream, because I know this wasn't scheduled for most of the day. That was a fun surprise.
Yeah, thank you to everybody for putting that together real quick. It has been an honor.
Yep, GG, y'all.
Yeah, this was quite the Amish reunion this week. I was really excited to be a part of it.
Awesome.
You're an honorary
Yeah.
Amish now.
Do
Do with that title what you will.
And now let's all sing together. No, I'm just kidding. This is a little Weird Al action. All right. But yeah, GG everybody. So next week, so this is week 4. Next week we've got Jesse's favorite mode. Jesse, what mode is next week?
It's Cross Keys week.
Yay.
Yeah.
That voice
Yay.
cracking again. Jesse really is excited.
I really had to sell it. I mean, Jaws really set me up to sound super excited if I did not really go all out. it would have been a disappointment.
Just for everybody who doesn't know, Jesse works year round just for this 1 week. So,
Is that what it
is?
That's what we have him on the team for. Yeah.
Yeah. But cross keys is the new hotness for this time. I mean, it's the old hotness. It's from 2 years ago, but it's back instead of mystery. So, get your 5 windows of trackers ready for next week. Then we've got open.
no.
So now we're going to go from next week of crazy nonsense to just classic open in week 6, the normal stuff. And then week 7, the final week of the Swiss or whatever the normal league here is co-op with boots, full Inimizer. So lots of good nonsense, crazy time stuff. So hopefully everybody will tune in and watch some good stuff. Follow the runners here, Kaesden and DapperWormMan, and also Leo and Danny Music. Want to say thank you to co-commentary here, Jesse, Radical Sniper. Definitely give him a follow as well. Our tracker tonight was Irritable Penguin, and our restreamer. Thanks so much to Spy for jumping in. Jesse, anything to take us out?
I think you covered everything amazingly on this one. It has been a pleasure to work with you again, Jaws.
Yeah, it's been fun to see all the action. So there's so much left to go. A lot more weeks. I'll be around jumping in. But GG again to JKLOL and your victory tonight. And GG again to Amish Paradise for some awesome races from everybody this week. So on behalf of all the runners, all the commentators, everybody here, and the viewers, just everybody in the world, thank you for being here tonight, and enjoy some rando. Have a great night, everybody.